shall be dueling 100 different decks in 100 different days. I am Sir Memphis, he who is the noble knight-errant of the Curry Kingdom, and I bid ye welcome once more to another day of jolly merrymaking, jousting, and feasting, as we continue to celebrate the fair sex this week. Today is the 58th day of the 100 days. It is Crispin's Day, and we shall be taking a look at this here, the deck of the Sisters of House Exo, which is a deck comprised entirely of maidens most chaste, who are here to defend the Lord's name by defending those who are passed from beyond this realm onto the next. And so we have ourselves a deck meant to summon these fine ladies out, and that they may do the Lord's good work. So let us now proceed forth into the jousting fields with our ladies, who have one man to defend them, but at least it's one man. At least they'll be able to do something on themselves. So continuing on, the Exosisters, we shall see them quite well. Oh, very well, everyone. Welcome to the first joust of the day. We shall be attempting to go first with this deck as much as often possible, and building ourselves a very nice setup. Let us see here. I have Stella. I have Irene. Not the ideal set, but I can get that. I can get that just fine. I shall summon forth the Exosister Stella. We shall use her power to summon forth another lady of the convent. That is what we do. The sisters are here, and they shall summon forth each other in stride to face down the devils that plague this land. I have noticed that since I have arrived, there is much devilry in this edopro, as Memphis has called it, and I shall not stand abide it. I shan't. For now, though, we shall begin to summon forth many of our ladies, our fine ladies of the cloth, and we shall summon forth the sister of Castipel. She shall summon forth more of our ladies, as it is time for church. That is simply how it is. It is time for church. And I could use her power to stop monsters from summoning from yon grave. I do not think I require to do so. Not at this point. But I shall summon forth yet more creatures. I shall detach the Lady Stella. She shall be needed later for other things. The infinite impermanence, you say? Stopping my creature from using its powers. Well, this is why we searched this. We have the packs, the pack of the Exosisters, which shall summon forth the Lady Martha, who is dressed quite strangely for a lady of the cloth, but we should not judge, for she shall allow us to do more things. We shall summon forth Martha and the sister Ellis. They are all very ready to do their thing, as they say. So we shall summon forth Sister Michaelis, another quite well lady of the cloth, much more dynamic in her pose, in her posture, and I will take it. Let's see. I shall search forth another Exosister card, and we shall detach Ellis to do so. This is actually somewhat important. You want to detach Ellis, and we shall get our Vedas. We must be prepared to face the devils. That is what the Exosisters are here to do. They are prepared to face the devil in all of his forms. We shall summon forth them all, the magnificent Exosisters. They are most chaste, and they shall be prepared to deal with any sort of devilry that comes their way. So we have ourselves a setup, and I must have gotten ahead of myself and set the wrong card. Irrelevant! We still have the ability to banish our opponent's cards, sending them off into the hells that they have deserved themselves. Tis what it is. Sometimes one must make a mistake, but is what it is. We shall make do. What is this? What is this devilry that I see for myself? I shan't. Do not at the moment. I wish I'd placed this card upon thine board, but I shall make do without for now. For now, my opponent has summoned forth some sort of strange iron men. And I can see this one is clearly possessed by the devil, so is what it is. What does that do? Summon this monster. If this is summoned, you can send a Machina monster from deck to the hand. Or deck to the grave, I should say. Very well. Does not seem such a bad thing. What does this do? And my opponent has surrendered. Such pathetic play. Must be said. My opponent has seen what truly beautiful and chaste maidens we possess in our side of justice and righteousness, and has surrendered themselves. Verily, it wouldn't matter. Even if I did play the wrong card, I would have been able to remove my opponent's card from thine board. And that would have stopped them from doing many a thing. What does this even do? When your opponent activates a card in the battle, I would have stopped this creature long before such a phase even crossed my mind. And even if he had summoned this, I have the power of the Exorcist of Vadis to summon forth more sisters from my deck, who would have summoned even more sisters from my deck. It is as if a possession of demons sallied forth, and the church opened its doors wide, and the maidens flew out to smite them so. So, it is a nice feeling. It is. So, let us venture forth into the second of our jousts of the day. And with any luck, our opponents will at least wet our blades a bit, for that was quite too quick. Verily, we find ourselves into the second joust of the day against Sir Vale Extremo of the House of Extremo, of course. Let us see what sort of opponent we are up against this time. All right. Well, I do have the Lady Martha, and the Lady Sophia is something. 'Tis something indeed. I can make something out of this, and I do possess our court mage of the day, the Dimensional Shifter, who stops any monster or card in general from being sent to the Yard of Graves. This is fine by us, as we do not need to have our cards in the grave, but for some devil worshippers, they require the necromancies to avail them. Actually reminds me very much of Lord Memphis's court mage, who I met the other day. Rather odd fellow, has to be said. In any case, my opponent is playing, what is this? Some sort of shadowy... The Dark Lord! The Lord of Demons himself has come to face us in combat. Very well. I shall accept your challenge. What say thee? What does this card do? Targets a card and banishes that card. So, you would use the Lord's ways for evil? This cannot abide. This I shall not tolerate. Very well. Thou wishes to tangle such? We shall do this, indeed. The pot of prosperity has brought him nothing, though. All of his cards shall be banished to the yards of graves that no longer exist. What can ye do now, sir? What can thee do now? Dimensional fissure. Any monster sent to the grave is banished. I have already accomplished this, vile fiend. Thou doest my work for me. Very well. I have summoned... Okay, the Sakitama, the Holy Spirit, I call this. When I first saw this card, I thought it might have been a demon, but no, this is the Holy Spirit, or at least a fraction of it, probably a very small fraction of it. We shall summon forth the Exosister Martha and Our Lady Ellis. And if I remember correctly, no, this one is revolved around other cards. But for now, we shall summon forth another Exosister. We shall summon forth many, and we will use the power of our Sakitama. This eye can reveal itself from mine hand, showing my hand to the opponent to summon it forth. That way I shall start with many monsters. I believe, well, I might need cards in yon grave to do this part, but I can certainly do some things. Let me think about it. I've already special summoned my Lady Martha. Let's see... I cannot do it more than once per turn, regrettably. So I don't think I'll be able to destroy my opponent this turn. But if I remember correctly, I can make my monsters stronger. Just not as much as I'd like them to be. So 16, 23, 23. Very well. We shall do as we usually do. Regrettably, without a grave or any ability to get more things, I will not be able to do everything I wish to do here, but I will be able to do some things. So we shall detach Lady Eris, who shall sadly be sent off into the heavens. This is the heavens, this is the hells. That's what we say. It shall set forth another monster. Actually, if I summon forth Lady Michaelis... Yes, if I summon forth the Lady Michaelis, I shall search out my spell, and I shall get rid of that as well. The Holy Spirit must go with Lady... Let's see, one moment. Let's go ahead and get rid of this. I don't trust it. I don't trust such vile demony. So we'll get our return, yeah, and this time we'll use it properly. This time we'll use it properly. So now I can summon forth my Magnifica, which can attack more than once in a turn. So it will do slightly more damage. Let's summon forth our monster. Yes, so. That shall do fairly well. Let us go ahead and proceed into combat. Righteous, divine, good old crusading combat as we send forth our Holy Maiden to do the work. You know, normally I wouldn't think that a woman could do anything on her own, but these sisters seem quite competent for women. So I am very much pleased. I'm not used to women doing so much of the heavy lifting, you see. But for now, that should do us just fine. I think just verily so, that shall work just fine. So what can my opponent do? I still possess the Lady Martha. I still have the... Well, the Magus only works the one time. That is the one thing about him. He only does... He's one of those one-and-done mages. What is this? You tribute summon for a tribute. You're going to tribute my lady? That's not good. I don't think it will matter if I do that in any case, but mayhaps if I was to... I don't think if I could remove that, it would do anything. I shall summon forth Lady Castipel once more. My idea being that if my opponent wishes to summon from yon grave, they shall not be allowed to do so. Let's see. All my monsters are Exosisters, but I will not have an Exosister if he gets his way. Most uncouth! I knew devilry would be the name of the day, but I didn't think it would be that easy for him to do that. Very well, Shadow Monarch. Thou art a dastardly rogue. We shall see what you can do with it. You may summon forth your Caius. I shall take your blow upon mine breast, and deliver it twice back to thee. Very well. All right, what do we draw into? The part that is most prosperous is a tempting offer, but you will take less of the damage if I do so. I must think about this a moment. Suppose there is no terrible waste to that. Let me think. I would rather simply summon Lady Michaelis and be rid of this monster, though. So I think we shall do so. Let us summon forth the Lady Martha, and we'll see where this goes. What is this devilry? This looks like that newfangled science thing. Kind of like this device that I've been completing my duels upon, but I still don't know how it works. Not quite sure how it works, but this certainly looks like devilry to me. So, what is going on now? This card is activated. Summon Helios, the sun. You would summon the sun? The sun is the symbol of purity and just natures. How dare you profane its name? It's not as good as King Karibo or the Lord, but it's a close third. How dare you, sir? Very well. So we have our monsters upon the board, and once I'm able to summon forth the lady, this shouldn't be a problem. I have the Lady Michaelis. I should be still be able to do everything I'd like to do. And, barely. I could summon a man to do it. Well, I can't summon the man right now. For some reason, our nuns are not exactly keen on a man coming out just to defend themselves. They might be those tomboys I've heard about. Rather uncouth. It would just be the way of the devil to have tomboys masquerading as proper ladies of the cloth. But I have a hard time believing it at the same time. What is with that? I don't understand. And I don't know why, but my opponent seems to have frozen the board. I should be able to do what I want to do, but it won't let me, so I think my opponent has... I don't know, maybe they saw monsters and they died. That is possible. You know, I have summoned 4 mighty beings, including myself, and my opponent simply sits there and dies. So, possibly, maybe, that my opponent has simply died of fright. I mean, if you are a worshipper of the devil and you do see that the Holy Nun is coming to defeat you and there's a rather dashing knight here as well to also smite thee, then you would probably also die of fright. That is simply how it goes. So, I suppose I'll have to sit here and wait and see what happens. I don't like to wait and see what happens, but otherwise, what am I supposed to do? I will not click them. What is this button? It says surrender. I'm not going to click that, obviously. I've clearly won this duel. There's no other way of saying it. Well, what else is this going to happen? I don't see anything else. Verily, my lords and ladies, we find ourselves to the 3rd joust of the day, the jousting fair, as we say around here, and we shall be going first, as we like to do. Very well, very well. Let's see here. I don't have quite the ladies I'd like on the board, but it's a start. It is a start. Let me think. I can summon an Exosister from mine hand. That would be pretty good. Let's just do this. Let us summon forth Exosister Stella. We shall use her effect to summon forth a monster from our hand. We shall summon forth the Lady Irene. Now, I do have Exosister packs, so I'll save that for later, but we'll be starting off pretty simply. We shall summon forth our Lady Castapel and continue to do our so. These most lovely ladies, I must say, they are very consistent in what they do. They seem to know what they're doing. They have their act together, and I can appreciate as such. We shall set forth the Lady Martha. We shall summon forth our Magnifica, and things should be pretty simple from there. We'll summon forth the Martha. We shall summon forth the Eris, and continue to do as such. So Lady Michaelis will come forth, and I must say, Lady Michaelis might be my favorite because she looks the most like a battle nun. I don't know if a battle nun is something you people in this world are familiar with, but basically it's a nun that does battle. So you should appreciate them because they're not very common. Not very common indeed. They are like a rare budding flower or blooming flower. The blooming flower would have been a bud at one point. Yeah, I'm trying to get my tongue. My tongue I have bit. I talk too fast, but it is well. It is well. I am well. Do not worry about it. There's a set a card, and that ought to be well. I think that will work just fine. I could have also played my packs face down and played it on my opponent's turn, but this will work just fine. We have our Magnifica on the board. We will be able to remove our opponent's cards from their board, sending them straight to hell. And then we have the return here that will do much the same. It, of course, depicts our lovely ladies doing the Lord's work, banishing demons straight to hell, and I can appreciate as such. All I wish it to be is alongside them in most holy battle, as that is what a knight must be always prepared for, not seeking it, but rather ready for when it shows up. My opponent has told me to fuck off. Well, aren't you uncouth? One moment. How does this work? I don't actually know how this works. Let me think. Can I... Oh! Let me think. How do I respond to such uncouth words? One does not need to record, or to, I say, one should not have to respond to such uncouth words. If you do not wish to fight me, then you shouldn't have stepped onto the battlefield. That is simply how it is. So, are you going to do something, or are you going to stand there staring at my feet, waiting for my sword to cleave you in twain? I'd rather not strike down an unmanned, but come on. I mean, the people are here in the audience. They are prepared. They are in the stands. They're ready to watch the joust, and you're just standing there staring at my feet. I don't appreciate that. So, I may have to seek a fourth opponent for this day. Maybe this person has a second, I don't know, but we'll see in a moment. Verily, my lords and ladies, we find ourselves to the fourth opponent of the day. The third one didn't even happen, if you think about it. But it still counts as we set upon the field of battle. My opponents simply stood there and twiddled their thumbs, I suppose. So, it's what it is. Let's see. I have another Exosister upon thine board. I can summon forth... I I need the Lady Irene, you say. Verily. We shall summon forth the Exosister Sophia. She is a monster most special, for she allows us to get more cards from our deck. We shall set forth... Let me double check. Yes, the Lady Irene. It is strange, I should say, how some of these Exosisters are very specific on who they will contend with. One would say that that's rather, you know... It's a bit of a faction thing, I would say. But chance it is a faction. Don't know. But it is irrelevant, so let us go ahead and do as we do. Let us do as we do and summon forth our ladies. And try to do what we did before, but this time hopefully our opponent will, you know, actually allow the contest to begin. Otherwise, what is the point of a joust if my opponents will not face me in battle? Maybe I'm just too macho. It's possible. Quite possible I am simply too much for my opponents, so they don't know what to do themselves. I can agree with that. I am quite the hunk, as they say. Verily, let's see here. We shall summon forth Lady McAllis as we do. As I have previously stated, the sisters of Lady House Exo, very consistent on what they do. We also set forth our Returnia so that we may face down demons and the like, and be good about it. Let me think. I could summon forth a third monster. If I was going second, this would allow me to do a victory in a single turn, but as it stands, I think I shall... I shall hold these creatures in reserve in the off chance that I require them. I would rather not place all of my monsters in a single area, lest they be struck down by a trebuchet fire or such. We shall summon forth our Magnifica, we shall set forth our Eternia, and see about where this goes. I shall mention, before anything happens here, in order to use the full effect of the Magnificent, we must detach the Michaelis from our monster. That way we will be able to summon her again. I see, you have set forth many a trap. I only require one of these. Pot of Desires, you say. Interesting. That looks like the devil's work. I mean, that certainly looks like the devil's face, I'll have to say. Very well, you say. And you summon forth... What is this? Any card sent to the grave is banished instead. That looks like a preacher. You have summoned a preacher against nuns? Are you corrupt, man? Have you been in the sacramental wine? I will not tolerate this. Alright, so... I could banish this right now, but I feel like that would be too early. We're both going to look at each other's hands. Oh, yes, definitely a corrupt nut. This is a very corrupt man, for he has summoned forth a demon from his hand. Very well. Each player chooses a card to discard that card, and then both players draw another card, you say. Fascinating, I suppose. I'm curious as to what he will remove from mine hand. The triple tactics. Regrettable, but not necessary for us. I've also drawn into the Duster of Harpies. What? What devilry is this? Two of them? More than one, you say? Very well. It seems that my opponent is quite the uncouth gravekeeper's servant. The only ones who will be creeping any graves here are my ladies. Very well. Seems that we will have to resort to violence after all. Let us go and stride forth. We shall use our Exosister Magnifica in order to banish a card of my opponent's. Let's see. I can use both of these. I need to remember the order. Was it this one first? Or was it the other one first? I think it was the first one first. I shall banish one of my opponent's creatures. It can be any of their cards, really, but I'll just banish one for now. And I shall banish forth... This I can tolerate, I feel. I shall get rid of something else. Different Dimensions Dynamite, you say. Interesting. Let us activate our next card. We shall banish another card of my opponent's. And this time, I feel I shall banish... I will still contend with getting rid of the cards in his spell trap zone. I feel like those are more important to get rid of. Alright, so Exosister Magnifica did not... I was not able to do her effect, but it's not important right now. I would rather simply activate the Harpy's Feather Duster. Clearly a work of magics of some sort, but I'll assume it's It is the Lord's magic. My opponent has seen the error of his ways and allowed me to ram him through the heart. So, verily on him, we shall honor his honorable death by stoning him to death later. You know, I didn't kill him with that stroke, because he clearly has all of his life points. So, we will stone him for later to death for his worship of the devil. For now, let us go into yon end screen, for I think that none shall stand before us today and give us proper battle. Verily, my lords and ladies, I must confess I am most disappointed. For though our most illustrious sisters of the Lady House of Exo has allowed us many a victory today, they all feel most shallow and empty. For though our ladies were able to be brought upon the field of battle, those that saw them immediately turned and ran in tail, and 'twas not satisfying, was it? 'Twas not, I must say, for the ladies have much power to them, and they are able to cast aside all devils that stand in their way and send them straight back to the hells upon which that they belong. But it's not very good for a day of jousting, is it? No. For a day of jousting, one would like, you know, sword on sword, shield on axe, horse on horse. That is what I like to see at a good days of jousting. But 'twas not to be. But we did the Lord's work. We have slaughtered the devil worshippers and brought them low. And that is the best that we could do in a good night's day's work. So, for today, we have now the list of cards and then the pronouncement of tomorrow's activities. So, for our main deck today, we ran 3 copies of the Magus Dimension Shifter, 3 copies of the Exosister Martha. We have 2 copies of the Honest Monster, which is an angel from the Lord, of course. We have 3 copies of Aratama, which is it's still the Lord's Spirit, don't tell me otherwise. 3 copies of Sister of Exo Elish, 2 copies of the Sagitama, which is definitely the Lord's Spirit, 2 copies of Sister Irene, 2 copies of Exosister Stella, 2 copies of the Sister Sophia. We have 1 copy of Harpy's Feather Duster, 1 triple tactical talent, which is a fan of some sort, 2 copies of the triple tactical thrust, showing a warrior, most special in some sort of foreign armor, 3 copies of the Pot of Prosperity, which allows us to search out more cards, 1 copy of the Call of Graves, which again shows something happening, I'm not sure, 3 copies of the Forbidden Lance of Longinus, 3 copies of the Exosisters Pax, 2 copies of the Exosisters Returnia, and 2 Exosisters Vedus, which is all there prepared for when we face down the demons. For our extra deck, of course, we have 2 copies of Exosisters Gabrine, who we did not get to see played today, 2 copies of Exosisters Asophiel, who also didn't get to do anything today because my opponents were super weak and pathetic. We have 1 copy of this thing, which it might be a demon, or it could be a wizard's familiar. I'm not entirely sure what it is. 2 copies of Exosisters Castapel. We have 3 copies of the Sister Michaelis, which is our most special monster. 1 number 39 Utopia and the Utopia Lightning, which didn't need be summoned, which is rather odd considering a man usually does a woman's job. And of course we have ourselves 2 copies of our Exosisters Magnifica, which I removed 1 by mistake. There we go. And we have ourselves this giant metallic Nightman. I'm not sure what it is, but it seems rather large and powerful. So run 1 of that card. As for the cards upon the side deck, we have things like this scantily clad harlot, who is here because we have a lot of spellcasters. You'd think that we'd be warriors, but we are ladies of the cloth in this deck, so therefore spellcasters at the end of the day. And so you have this scantily clad harlot, who allow you to draw more cards, and some sort of spirit. It's not the Lord's Spirit. I think it's the ghost of a fallen knight or something. Come back from the dead to help us out in the field of battle. So, yeah, it's appreciated. So, that is for today's activities. Apologies again that all of my opponents were, you know, little Nancy boys, but such is how it is. And tomorrow we are playing something called Amazoness with War Rocks. Sounds a lot less chaste, but I will not judge until I see it. Until next time, my lords and ladies, it is I, Sir Memphis, bidding thee a good day.